Hi, this is Dice Kimura. I'm a Miami guitar teacher, and today I'm doing an equipment review video of the Ibanez Tube Screamer. And this is not any ordinary tube screamer. This is the Handwired Tube Screamer that just recently came out, actually about 2 years ago. And I'm just going to play it a little bit, then we're going to talk about it. So, as you can see, I'm using two of them. I'm going clean into a Hughes and Kettner amp, so here's a clean sound. And then here's with one of them, okay? Okay, that was at the fourth position. Here's with two of them. Alright, so let's talk about it. Why do I like the Tube Screamers? I'm obviously a huge fan. I have two of them. I just want to say, just to set the tone, that I have owned every Tube Screamer that I could get my hands on. Okay, I've owned the TS9, Ibanez TS9, that is, because you know there's the Maxon as well. Okay, so I believe Ibanez was first, and then they sold the rights to Maxon, and then they bought them back, and then they started producing it. If I'm wrong, leave me a comment and tell me. Some of you aficionados might know the exact history, but I believe Ibanez designed it, licensed it out to Maxon to manufacture it, and then later they took it back. And so some super duper tone purists will get the Maxon version of the TS9 instead of the Ibanez. I don't see a huge tonal difference. It's maybe a hair warmer. But if you show up to the jam session with a Maxon, it's like, you know your stuff, okay? I've had the TS9. I've had the 808. I've had the, by the way, the 808 is the original Tube Screamer. So with the 58, 51 chip that is so famous, that makes that tone that everybody wants. And the Tube Screamer, I believe, was incepted in 1978, and it's since morphed. So they started the original 78s all the way to like 82, or I think 78, 79, 80, 81, 82. It might have been up to 83. Those were the choice years of the super rare Tube Screamer sound that everybody wants. And those are what Stevie Ray Vaughn would use. And by the way, I'm a huge Stevie Ray Vaughn fan. I'm actually playing right now on a Stevie Ray Vaughn signature Strat with a Texas Special pickups in the fourth position. So I'm going to be playing that for most of this review video. Okay, so why, you ask, do I have two of these Tube Screamers? Well, very simple. Stevie Ray Vaughn used two of them, so I got two of them. And of course, there's more to it than that, but it's exactly that simple. And by the way, I just want to share my philosophy on gear. That's how I buy gear. I don't believe the magazines. I don't believe the hype. I don't believe the marketing. I don't go to Guitar Center or the music store and let the salesman convince me of, you know, what I need to buy. What I do is I'll look at who I want to sound like, and I'll buy that person's equipment, if that makes sense. So if you want to sound like Slash, get yourself an 80s Les Paul, early 80s, get yourself a Marshall 2203 head with Celestion greenback cabs, or actually he's using vintage 30 speakers, and you'll sound like Slash. And I have a student that did exactly that, and that's exactly what they sound like. And they also got a Handwired Tubescreamer. Now, the person that turned me on to the Handwired Tubescreamer the first time was Kenny Wayne Shepherd. I saw a review with him talking about it because I use a lot of Analog Man products. Matter of fact, you can see here's Analog Man Peppermint Fuzz. So I'm big into Analog Man, and he, Analog Man, Analog Mike, he makes pedals for Kenny Wayne Shepherd. So I ended up watching this video, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd is talking about the TS808 HW, and it's just an incredible pedal. I was getting my pedals modded by Analog Man. I've had them modded by Keeley as well. Like I said, I had the TS9, I had the 808. I also had the 9DX, the one with the 4 knobs, and then I got it modded by Keeley. That was actually a huge disappointment. But I had all these Tubescreamers, and once I heard the TS808 HW, the Handwired, I sold them all. I sold them all to buy the Handwired, and I didn't mod it at all. There was no need to mod it. This Tubescreamer, it sounds so huge and so fat right out the box. There's really no room for improvement, in my opinion. It's so good that I even got 2 of them, and I run them stacked on top of each other. I'm going to show you exactly what I do, and this is exactly how I get my sound. I'm a guitar teacher in Miami. My students are constantly complimenting how great the tone is of my amp in my studio. And the secret to my tone, well, you know, in terms of what I'm using electronically, I'm using a Hughes & Kettner amp set on clean. I do not use any of the distortion. I don't like Hughes & Kettner distortion that much. It's kind of mediocre in my opinion. I'm using TAD tubes. And then I use 2 Tubescreamers, one in clean and one in high gain, okay? And then I'd probably use like a Fender or a Gibson or a PRS guitar. So let's get into it. Before I talk about it in depth, I just want you to hear it, okay? So I'm going to show you my clean sound, okay? What I'm going to show you now is the Tubescreamer off, but I actually use the Tubescreamer for my clean as well, but I'm going to start with it off. Very spanky. I don't actually play this as a clean tone. I just wanted to play this for you to establish what everything off sounds like. This is my clean tone, and if you look, I actually got all the knobs at 12 o'clock, okay? So I don't know if you can see that, if the camera's focusing, but you see the little white dots, everything's at 12 o'clock. And so basically, I'm playing, there's a little bit of hair on the note. The beautiful thing about the Tubescreamer is you can get a little bit of hair or gain on the note, and you still have a clean amount of sound. So it's not overdriving to the point of dirtiness, but it's there just giving me some mid-range and some sustain. I got the volume on my Stevie Ray Vaughn Strat turned all the way up. I'm in the 4th position. I got one Tubescreamer on, set everything at high noon, and here it is. that's my Little Wing sound right there. You know, one tube screamer in the 4th position. By the way, I just want to point out, I'm right now in bedroom volume, okay? You can tell by my volume of my voice that I'm playing at like talking level, okay? So that's really important to point out because tone is very easy to sound good when you are loud, okay? Why is that? Well, the more you move the speaker, the more air that you're moving in the speaker in terms of sheer volume output, the more bass you're going to get. And the more you max out the speaker, the more natural mids you're going to get. And highs are pretty easy too. You just crank everything up and they sound amazing. One of my tone heroes is obviously Stevie Ray Vaughn. And the guy used on any given night, you know, 2 vibro verbs of 115s, 2 deluxe reverbs, 2 super reverbs, a Marshall Townsend, a Leslie. I mean, you're talking, you know, that's 8 amps right there. And he would have it all turned up. And then maybe if he wanted a little extra oomph, he'd turn a bassman on for his solos, which he started doing like around the In-Step album era. And then, you know, he'd use 2 tube screamers. So, I mean, if you are loud, it's relatively easy to get a great guitar tone. Let me tell you though, it's really hard to get a great guitar tone if you're quiet. So notice the tone that I'm getting and notice how quiet I must be because I can talk over it. So and I just want to take a second and draw away from the topic of the tube screamer just to like show you my amps. You see how big my transformers are? Those are massive transformers. That's why I have such huge bass response right now at this low volume, okay? That's another video altogether, which maybe I'll talk about at another date. Anyway, so notice with this tube screamer, I got one of them on. It gives me a great crunch tone. And it gives me a nice clean tone. That's kind of a Hendrix, kind of a clean tone. Hendrix never really played clean. He had a little bit of hair on the note, he had a little bit of gain, and he would roll it down. Okay, so I'm just going to play now with the front pickup, still volume all the way up. And notice that's a great blues tone. Still one tube screamer halfway up. There's just something very unique about the tube screamer in terms of the way it handles mids and compression and gain. It's these 3 variables, mids and compression and gain, that make this pedal absolutely amazing. Okay. By the way, I want to point out that this pedal has been slightly modded. I bought this used, but you can see that this is not factory. It doesn't affect the sound at all. It's just the person that sold it to me wanted to have a bigger response for the on-off button, and so they got a real Switchcraft switch that clicks, as opposed to this one, which is stock, and it's very easy to turn on and off. I actually prefer the stock one. I like how easy it is to just turn it on and off super quick. But if you really want to feel it engaged, this person put a different pedal on there. I mean, a different button on there. Anyway, so that's one pedal. I'm going to also show you with two pedals. It sounds like I got my snare on my drums rattling a little bit. Hope it doesn't bother you. But with two pedals, you're getting the exact same super unique tone, mids, compression, and gain. It's very, very unique on the Handwired Tubescreamer. I'm telling you. I've had all of them. Plus, I've had the Keeley and the Analog Man mods. And this one takes the cake. If you do one, it's great. If you want more of that, do a second one. And I'll show you. I went from this. And here's the second. And it's super clean. It's like, it gives me clarity, but I also have this mid-range fuzziness and a compression that gives me sustain. By the way, I need to give credit where credit is due. Like I said to you, the way I buy gear is I figure out who my favorite guitar player is or what I want to sound like, and I just buy the exact same thing that they're using, okay? It's a very simple thing to do, but very few guitar players do this. Most guitar players, what they do when they go buy gear is they go to the music store and they ask the salesman what they should buy, or they believe what they saw on the commercial or the magazine. And that's not what I do, because that's marketing. You're getting marketed to, and they're spending tons of money to get you to buy their thing. But I would rather look to my heroes like Stevie Ray Vaughn or Jimi Hendrix or Jeff Beck or even Eric Clapton, Buddy Guy, Slash. Look at what they're currently using and buy that. If you want that sound, buy that thing. It's that simple, folks. I think that's the way to go. So that being said, why do I have two Tubescreamers? Well, Stevie Ray Vaughn used two Tubescreamers. And he was a real smart cookie when it comes to tone. He pioneered a lot of things. So I think he realized he can get all the bottom end that he needed out of his amps. That's why I showed you how big my transformers are, because I can get all the tonal shaping I need is in my head here. And then I can get the mid-range, the compression, and the gain through these two pedals. So with the second pedal on, this time I'm going to get in the bridge pickup. You can hear some harmonic action. That's so serious. Anyway, by the way, in case you're wondering, that's a P90. I'll show you real quick. I'm actually playing a Joe Barden. Can I show this to you? Here we go. It's a Joe Barden P90. I'll do a whole nother review on that. And if you're curious though, look on my YouTube video, my channel, the video that says why I play a Strat, and I talk all about my Strat mods. Okay, but I'm using a Joe Barden P90, two Tubescreamers. Hughes and Kettner head with a Celestion Vintage 30 speaker. This is exactly what you're hearing. Alright, now what I really love about the two Tubescreamers is the really intense Compression, I get all the gain I need for sustain and harmonics. It's all there, folks. The EQ is intact. I feel like I don't lose any signal. And I'm using Mogami cables, as you can see. Actually, this one is a Planet Waves, but everybody else is a Mogami. They're all gold, though. And the cool thing, inside these tube screamers are hand wired. If you open them up inside, these are Mogami hand wired point-by-point connections. Okay, so why does it sound so good? Well, all of the EQ, all the signal is intact. The compression is what makes the mid-range and distortion work, and the compression is super unique. And you're gonna have to take my word for it, or you're gonna have to go play one of these yourself. But if you play in a band and you kick this pedal on, and it gives you this shapes the tone in a way that the compression and the mids make it pop right out of the mix. So it becomes audible, and you can hear it better even though it's not louder. And it can get plenty loud. I don't know what the decibel boost is. I think it's probably 18. It's probably got an 18 decibel boost, but it's a huge boost. It's more than enough. It's actually monstrous. I have not seen a boost this big since like a Keeley pedal. And that's a new fad, by the way, having like massive gain boost inside of a pedal. But Keeley is doing it. I know Analog Man does it, but Keeley does it stock. And this Tube Screamer gives you a massive gain boost. So if you turn it off, let's see if I can just show you here. If I turn this off, I'm going to show you just one pedal now with the gain all the way up. There's one pedal. Here's two pedals. One pedal. Here's with the gain all the way up. I mean the volume and the gain all the way up. Pedal off. Pedal on. That's a huge boost. I hope I'm not distorting the microphone right now, because that's just massive, folks. So both pedals on. I like to use it like I told you. This is my clean, which is not really clean. It's just a hairy kind of clean. Gives me a nice round kind of clean with some hair. The second pedal. Alright, let me jam for you a little bit, some Jack Johnson kind of stuff here. Let's just get the levels right. it does all I need it to do. Um, I'm very, very picky when it comes to tone. I've been through so many pedals. By the way, I just want to say as a disclaimer that probably the best distortion you can get would be tube distortion straight out of your amp, okay? But a lot of times you're going to need more than one amp on stage. At least I've noticed that. Usually I'll need one amp for distortion and one amp for clean if I'm going to use tube distortion, which is exactly what Stevie Ray Vaughn did toward the end of his career. He'd use a Fender Bassman dimed out for his lead sound, and then the other black faces for his cleaner sounds. The easiest way to do that is to just get one sound, like a great clean sound like I have with this Hughes and Kettner, and then stack some pedals on top of it. So the worst thing you can do tonally, I think, is use the gain and switch between like the Hughes and Kettner lead and crunch and all that other stuff. I've done that for years and years and years, and I have not had good results. In other words, if I dial in the amp for lead, it needs to stay lead. If you have a bona fide lead channel for the lead, like with Fenders, they'll give you a bona fide lead channel. But I tend to like the cleaner sound, like what you get out of the Fender Twin or the Deluxe or the Super or the Vibroverb, and then just push the amp with a tube screamer and with sheer volume and let it break up the old-fashioned way where it just breaks up with volume. But it's really hard because to sound great at a low volume is always the challenge. Sounding great at a really high volume is relatively easy as long as you know what you're doing. But sounding great at a low volume like I'm doing right now is going to require some more thinking, and I'm using two tube screamers. I would definitely use this live or in the studio, and I have, and it sounds great. So I'm going to put below a link of the Amazon affiliate link where you can buy this pedal new off Amazon, and I highly recommend it. Feel free to subscribe, send me an email or comment. I read all my comments. I respond to everything I can. I read everything. I really appreciate hearing from you, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks.